So I'm just thinking about the amount of work that goes into a research paper and the number of people that just don't get it and don't understand. And, I was thinking about this, like to get people in the real world to understand how much work goes into it. Um, I mean, it it often makes me sort of it makes me want to cry, basically, right? Like I think about this as like people, and the thing is that even though I'm in the profession and I'm doing this, I'm sort of putting in that amount of work, um, it's still not good enough, right? Like I think about that all the time as like, well, too bad, right? Like you didn't do a good enough job. I don't think the outside world understands, and that's one of the problems that I see often with new PhD students is they don't understand how much work actually goes into doing something that is good. And so they always look for shortcuts, or they don't believe me or whatever, right? Like the amount of work that goes into it is outstanding. And your chances of that work actually paying off is often doesn't exist. There's no return on that. You know, um, for example, uh, I'm reading or I'm doing a paper that's a review piece, and we've read. So this is just one paper alone, um, like 120 articles, and of those articles, um, there was, I don't know, 40 pages of single space type, and then you have to understand what those things are. So 4,000 pages, and it's not even close to being published. Like not even close, not even really the first iteration. It's just not there. Um, and there probably still needs to be, realistically, probably another 5,000 hours put into this paper. And I'm not lying in terms of it probably will be another 5,000 hours put into this paper. Um, and to quantify that, to tell that, tell people this, I don't think people understand how difficult it actually is. And I'm assuming, and I realize that, I used to think if you're, and it's true, right? Like if you're a really good writer, like really, 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 like stupidly good, it might matter, because you get through. But even if you consider yourself a good writer in high school, right? Like you had straight A's, um, and you considered yourself a good writer in college, you had straight A's in all of your writing sort of assignments. It's not good enough. You're not going to be good enough, right? The the rigor that is involved, it's just ridiculous. Like people are graduating from, basically the top of their class at Harvard and Princeton and places like that, and they're struggling with it. These are the best of the best in the field, and they struggle with it. It's not that easy. Um, and even then, it's just an unbelievable amount of work. And I want everybody to understand just how much work goes into these things. And the only way that you can understand it, just how much work goes into it, is you try to do it yourself, do a little mini project. Even thinking about it right now, you're probably discounting it. You're probably like, I'm never going to do that. Well, that's what it takes to be a good scientist, is to be able to say, I'm going to do that and get going with it, even though it's actually painful to actually do. And your chance of, and then you might think of yourself, well, who's going to read it? Well, that is the point. That's what scientists go through. Nobody is going to read it, right? Like, that's at the end of the day, that's really the whole problem of what you actually go through. And you get up and do it anyways, right? So I was thinking about that, and as soon as I think about, okay, I've got all of this work to do, um, and the amount of work that's been just wasted behind me, if I think about all the amount of work that has been wasted behind me, I sort of get discouraged. And I think about the work in front of me, I get discouraged. The only thing I can do is to focus on what's going on at this moment and just be like, I'm okay with who I am, and I'm just going to walk forward peacefully, quietly, quiet confidence inside, and I'm going to take those steps forward, regardless of what's going on around me. Now, so you might be listening to this, you might be thinking, well, you need to get paid. Unfortunately, the market is not going to pay you unless you have that quiet confidence and you just walk forward and you do your thing. And the only way I know how to do that is to walk forward and do your thing. And that is ultimately that's the ridiculous challenge with it all, is that you just need to try. You need to put in the time, and if it doesn't happen, you don't put in that work, it's not going to happen. So this is the predicament. This is the feeling that all scientists go through and researchers go through. It's hard. The whole process is hard. There's no guarantees. Nobody is going to sort of rescue you. Like, it's just not going to happen like that. So what do? You just get up and you do it. And that's it, right? Like, you could sit there and dwell about it and dwell about all of the problems and all of that kind of stuff, but there's nothing you can do about it. I think about, the analogy with, um, a startup, or the reciprocity project's perfect example of this, right? I could sit and cry and say, nobody's using this thing and wasting all this money, or I just say, giddy up and look at it, and I say, okay, this is a start. Let's keep working at it. Let's figure it out, right? Let's figure it out. It might take an awful long time, but I'm going to figure it out. Same thing with any other project I'm working on. I'm just going to figure it out. Um, and that's it. I mean, that's the end of the game, or name. That's the name of the game. And you might think that you're completely unproductive and all those things. Well, then so be it, right? Like, that's okay. Um, Whatever happens to you, you do you, and whatever happens, that's okay. That's that's what goes on. But I encourage you to just get up and get going. Stop worrying about all the work that was wasted, all the work that's ahead, and just get going. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day.